when you earn it, it's bound to your account, so you can't send it to somebody else, right? And when you trade it, when you go to sell it, there will be a tax, and that tax will be based on your AXIE score. And so, last year we did a lot of work on AXIE score. AXIE score became way more robust. The fidelity of AXIE score got a lot stronger. AXIE score started to track a lot more parts of your AXIE ecosystem contribution, right? And that's getting better and better over time as well, right? We're releasing new badges, we're releasing new ways to earn AXIE score and do things with your AXIE score, and that theme is just going to grow in 2026, especially as governance, sort of ramps up as well. But AXIE score is going to be really, really important, right? And so, how do you increase your AXIE score? You just get badges, right? Holding important assets, um, uh, doing things in various gameplay things, contributing to the treasury, and also various community related things. Right, those are the 4 pillars of AXIE score, and AXIE score will be really important. Specifically, your AXIE score tier, right? Myth keepers are at the top, and etc. Right, ATIAs. Yeah. So that tier of AXIE score that you're in will determine your tax rate when you try to sell AXS, right? Now, BXS, I meant. Now, BXS should feel very like AXS, right? And it will, right? Because for a lot of people, they'll play a bounty board, they'll earn some BAXS, and they'll just go right and use it to,
Vamos a escuchar
reap
directamente
or
lo que es
to
la
evolve their
presentación
AXIE or to perfect it,
y
right?
a medida que
And
vamos teniendo
BAXS will be
opiniones
spendable just like regular AXS,
y veamos qué es lo que dicen sobre
But
lo que es el
again,
XLP, igual vamos a
the
hacer
key
otro
part of
video
this
después
is you'll be able to earn BAXS,
y obviamente
but
que
you
también vamos a ir
can't,
hablando.
trade it. You'll be able to
Y
use it and
le voy
spend
a ir
it in ways
traduciendo lo
that
que
you
está
can
diciendo
with
Noticias.
AXS that benefit the ecosystem and the treasury, right? But when you go to try to sell it, there will be a tax, and that tax obviously is revenue to the treasury. So those are our plans for BAXS. I think in our targets to start integrating this into the ecosystem in Q1 of 2026 of this year. And obviously we will start slow, we'll start slow. We'll start sort of ramp up its integration into the ecosystem, and then hopefully by the end of 2026, or maybe earlier than that, it has a strong foothold all over the AXIE ecosystem. In AXIE Core, it's being emitted everywhere, and the AXS is emitted. And yeah, so those are sort of our plans for AXS this year.
Yeah, good overview. Thank you. I think a lot of the questions are related to that SLP, BAXS, AXS. So we'll go through the questions as they come through. But Shay did kind of mention how we're going to be utilizing it. I think one of the big things is obviously there's some people don't like the decisions we've made over the short-term period, but I'd say one thing is always to like zoom out. Like if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different outcomes, I think that's like the definition of insanity or illogical behavior. So if you're not happy with the current, like how the economy is doing or what the games are looking like at the moment, we need to make big changes and big swings to actually improve the entire AXIE experience. And that's why we're doing these lounges, right? Another person has asked like, oh, can you provide the full context of, I guess, Oja? So in other words, the problem with removing it without showing the full plan leaves room for panic. Yeah, so we don't want to reveal the full plan off the bat straight away, because then that attaches us to a clear deliverable, and that'll just be essentially overhyping something, and we don't want to overhype and underdeliver on a product. If you look back at ATIA's Legacy Playtest 1, we purposely didn't overhype that. We tried to make it as real as possible. This is the first ever playtest to the core AXIE community, and the playtest went successful. So we're trying to replicate that. So we will get you more information on our plans, but we don't want to overhype something, and that's why we aren't revealing like the full big plan picture. But we can work on something for the interim, because yeah, you do want to have more understanding of what's going on behind closed doors.
un poquitito de lo que es el SLP y
there's a
la
lot of questions here. The big thing
probabilidad.
we should talk about is that where the team is currently, like Jaster, is currently captaining the
Estaban
release
hablando un
of like the
poquitito
2026
de.
plans.
Vamos a tirar un poquitito. Estaban hablando un poquitito de lo que es el SLP, la probabilidad de mezclarse con algo llamado DXS, y al final creo que hay un plan, dicen que no pueden comunicarlo, y eso personalmente creo que es un problema, porque a mí me gustaría hacer el contenido lo más claro posible para poder comunicárselos a ustedes, pero como no hay un plan claro y yo todavía tampoco lo sé, no puedo llegar y comunicarlo a ustedes. Así que solamente se pueden sacar teorías frente a eso, y esas teorías pueden ser excesivamente buenas, excesivamente malas, no sé, muy variables. Creo yo personalmente que sí, efectivamente se necesita una mejor manera de comunicar todo lo que son estos cambios en vez de la manera actual, porque queda mucho ahí sobre la mesa.
If the floor price of an AXIE was $3 or $4 or $5, that wouldn't necessarily be the level of success that the community is expecting from the AXIE ecosystem. So again, like we could theoretically do a lot of things to keep AXIE floor price to be at $3 or $4 or $5, or, and then again, this is us, to Jason's point, don't want to overpromise. We have some things that should ideally, from a pure economic level, have a bigger chance of increasing a lot of the inherent and utility value of every AXIE. So once we're ready to announce that and fully get those details set up and get the full tech requirements locked in, then we're willing to share. We were talking a lot about this SLP change, about should we do it before everything is ready, like the next thing is ready. We kind of got to the point that the way that the SLP farming was accelerating, that if we let it go for too long, even for another month or so, it would just make the next phase a little bit problematic. So that's a lot of what it is. It's more of just kind of like, this is the hand was forced at least to kind of plug it right now. And for everyone who's like, all right, what about the real players? Like I promise you, in this year there will be no shortage of things for real human players to do, and the BXS will be the first shift where it's like we highly value real human players, and they should be incentivized accordingly. Yeah, Jaster and Post. Yeah, we have docs and concepts and arts of things that we're going to be doing all across AXIE for the year. Just kind of putting it together and getting ready to get it out. And then probably by the next lounge, we could talk a lot about the details of what's going to be shared there.
Yeah. Also on the topic of, on the theme of bots and versus human players, right? It's not just an SLP thing, right? There are it's a problem throughout the ecosystem, right? Namely the bounty board, right? And so we have some changes coming up with the bounty board to sort of address that, right? Like I think a common misconception that a lot of people have is that we only care about active addresses, daily active addresses, DAA, and things like that. And it's true, we might have once really cared about that metric, right? But today in 2026 we don't. So we're not afraid of cutting bounty board engagement in half for the betterment of all the human players who play the bounty board, right? So changes like that could be seen as unpopular early on, but I do think that they're better for the economy and for the actual real players.
Yeah, that seems to be a sentiment, is like with these changes, is it hurting like real players? The answer is no. Like with these changes, it'll benefit real players. It removes the incentives of playing experiences we have right now, where we can actually polish it into new products and designs and updates to like what AXIE experience is across the ecosystem. And that's one of the big things that was raised, was like, what are the real players going to do between now and Tears Legacy's full release? and we have something in place for that. So hopefully we can shed some more light on what you'll be doing this year. Hopefully you'll be a key part of all of the kind of releases we have planned and experiences, because well, they're going to be fun. So I would like the real people to actually enjoy those along the way.
Yeah, this experiment and rollout of BAXS, I think, will be a really cool on-chain way to not necessarily just hard stop bots, but really incentivize real users and real engagement and real contribution to the ecosystem. So if this kind of works out, I could see more of that concept for more things in the ecosystem. Yeah, no shortage of things that we could be doing to help fix the restructure the economy.
Yeah, and I think Casperata, sorry if I said that wrong, like we could use increased bot detection and bandbox, but that doesn't fix the solution. That's like putting a plaster on a wound. Like we need to actually fix the underlying cause to actually create a difference in the long run, not just putting a plaster on it. So that's kind of the thesis.
Yeah, and like functionally, like for Origins for years, we did a lot of anti-bot things, and I was looking at like some of our Jira tickets in like 2023, and like a large percentage of it was like anti-bot things. And then for my postmortem for the year, we were like, we could have actually built a lot more features if we were worried less about bots. And instead of having the bot detection happen from like a client side and require a lot of like actual dev work and back end work to track and to ban and to live ops, if we had ways that on chain could figure out the right users getting the right rewards, that would free up a lot of development time to, you know, actually build gameplay, build new content, build new features. So the bot problem has been a real actual thorn in like development speed, and there's quite a lot of things for Origins that I wish we could have done, but we were stuck because of the potential new exploit like vectors from bots. So ideally, we get to the point that, yeah, to Jace's point, that if we can solve it at a high end on chain layer, then that frees up games, not even just Sky Mavis generated games, but all games that use Axie Infinity going forward are more free to be a little bit more liberal as far as their game design. Like, so I think this should be a boon for Atias and for everything going forward. Yeah, and to Oja's point, like it is tough when we're saying is going to be short-term pains for long-term gains, but we don't want to just sit here and promise for what those long-term gains are. We can kind of allude to what they are directionally, and we can promise that we'll still be around to build things. But once those things are clear, we will be able to share.
Awesome.
Cool.
I think Martin, you've raised. Yeah, no, that wasn't. We didn't go that deep, but if that's what the community wants to talk about, we're happily cover those areas as well as the main key
No one
topics.
wants to see my Atias clips, man. Come on, guys. What's all this economy stuff and worrying about roadmaps? Just like watch cool videos. Fine, whatever. We can talk about this.
Oh yeah, do both. That was one of the. It's not working right now, but we had a very early build which devs got cooking over the Christmas period, which we wanted to show, but for some reason my computer's not working, so that's my bad.
That's okay. It's that Canadian internet, man. That sucks.
Sucks.
Yeah, I guess there's, understandably a lot of talk about SLP right now in the chat, right? And I guess my question back to you guys is, why should we put all this time and effort on SLP and maintaining this token when we have AXS, right? AXS is the token of Axie Infinity. AXS is where value should accumulate, right, in the treasury. So my question is, why should we continue putting time and effort, on bot prevention and development efforts, and making it work like AXS, and have attacks like AXS, and have an app token like AXS? when we have AXS, right? So if anything, all right, if we're going to spend time and effort on supporting SLP and it, in the ecosystem, I would just replace it with AXS because
Lo que puedo decir es que las noticias son pésimas.
it's stronger, right? And it's where we want to accumulate value, right? Now, we're not killing SLP. SLP still remains in the ecosystem. You still need it to breed, right? And there's what 44 billion SLP out there or whatever. And in fact, we could even have SLP as utility further in AXIE core, right? Like maybe you feed SLP to your AXIE, to do something, right? To increase its stamina, make it happy or whatever, right? I don't know, whatever. It could be used as a crafting ingredient for accessories. It could be you know what I mean? It could do all those things without, having to, treat it like AXS, which is not. So, yeah, I don't know. I admittedly, I am on the other side of the spectrum when it comes to, opinions against SLP, right? Even internally, right? SLP has really strong opinions in Sky Mavis. Some people really like SLP and think we should support it, like a lot of people here in chat, and some people think we should kill it, right? I'm on that side of the spectrum, but I know that SLP has strong provenance and strong history within Axie Infinity in this community, but yeah, those are my thoughts around the SLP and where it stands.
Awesome. Sweet. Should we move on to the next topic? It kind of like leans quite nicely into it if you want to touch upon it, Shade, when it comes to kind of like handling the economy for 2026, why we need to make these big swings and kind of what your thought process is behind that, if you feel you've got more to speak about outside of the BXS and SLP.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier in the call, the time for these small, tiny incremental changes that we've done over the years is, it's long gone. Like we don't have time for that anymore, right? And we can continue making these small, tiny improvements, small little trickle contributions to the treasury and small little updates that maintain engagement and maintain the player base and hope that people don't sell and shit, right? We can continue doing that for 2026, but I don't think we should do that. I think we have to do some big swings, right? We have to make some big changes. We have to do things that might look, crazy or bad for the community initially, but are better for the health of the ecosystem long term, right? And ultimately health of AXS long term. So, and so that's a big theme of 2026. It starts with this SLP change, and obviously it's not a popular change, right? But compared to some of the decisions that we're going to make this year, I think that is a small one, right? But yeah, it's sort of, we wanted to do it at the beginning of the year to sort of set the tone for the rest of the year, and so yeah, I guess my, what I want to say is, prepare yourself for some, for us shaking up the ecosystem a little bit, right? And this is, around a lot of decisions around, tokenomics, like the introduction of BAXS, rewards shifting to BAXS, more importance shifting to AXIE score and your contribution, right? Your reputation in the ecosystem and your contribution in AXIE Infinity should mean a lot more than it does today, right? And with the addition, with the introduction of BAXS, that will natively root itself all over the ecosystem, right? If all rewards are BAXS, well, most rewards. And then obviously there's the long ignored problem of the AXIE population, right? I think that is also going to be a big theme of 2026, is how do we solve the problem of 12 million Axies out there, right? With 12 million Axies, your actions and your contributions to the ecosystem, and owning an Axie, owning a collectible, evolving, and all these things are a drop in the bucket when there's 12 million Axies, right? And so I think we'll try a lot of crazy things to deal with the Axie population and burn a lot more Axies, right? If you look at the Axie floor today, it's plummeted, right? Especially after the SLP announcement and change. Axies are sub $1, I think. I don't know. But and we want to deal with that, right? And I think there's a bunch of ways that we already plan to do that, but I think there are a lot of cool other ways that we can experiment with to kill more Axies, right? Yeah. So those are the general themes of 2026 when it comes to the economy. Obviously, AXS health is the most important here, and hopefully BAXS will help a lot of that, and also reducing emissions, all over the place is going to be really important, and moving those AXS rewards and emissions to places that are more beneficial for the ecosystem is going to be really important. And we should have done that a long time ago. I admit, like, we've taken way too long to address this. But in 2026, we're just not going to be afraid of doing those kinds of changes anymore, right? We're not going to be afraid of the loud minority. We're not going to be afraid of OGs yelling at us and getting mad at us, or farmers getting mad at us, or whereas I admit in the past we sometimes will make decisions based on how you guys will react, but in 2026 all that shit goes out the window. Like, we're just going to make changes that we think are better for the economy and the ecosystem and AXS and the treasury long term, and those changes will happen.
Awesome. Thank you for like the insight. I think that's kind of important. We can push out like posts and stuff and kind of infographics to understand, but to get the real reasoning, I think it needs to come from, like you said, from your shelf shade, because you can actually provide that additional context to why we're making these moves. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. Awesome.
Were we
there any
gonna
other
hop?
key?
Were we gonna hop into that leak that you guys were trying to get working earlier, or no?
Oh, no, we'll get it ready for the next lounge.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. A bit patchy for this one.
Yeah, lots of fun chatter.
It's never a boring day, put it that way. And I think that's one of the big things. Like, if you're here today, you obviously care about Axie, right? Like that's the fundamental thing. If you're here in this call right now, like, it could be ridiculous time where you are in your time zones, and you're here to understand about what's happening with Axie. So everyone wants it to win. It's just we need to take in the feedback, action what we believe is the best thing to do for like not just survival, but actually Axie Infinity to thrive. So yeah, I do appreciate everyone's kind of like input. Your feelings are valid, and we'll work together to try and find the best solution. But we do have stuff planned this year. I'm actually really excited. But like you said, don't want to overhype things. Let's give us a little bit of time to deliver on kind of the vision, and then we can start delivering on what's actually going to be happening this year. And like I said, we'll do these Lunasian lounges, so you will have full transparency. You'll have the ability to kind of talk about what's been released and when they've been released with us directly. So we're not going anywhere, essentially. We're not just going to go and hide for 2 years, for example. We do have experiences planned over that build period.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of it has been over the last few years. Again, trying to make 10% gains and then losing out, and then hitting a lot of like exploit variables, and then kind of starting back at square one. So it's been tough. So yeah. Once we get the new plans out, we'll have a lot more concrete things that are not vague, that are not obtuse, that are a little bit more concrete and ready to discuss. But a lot of what people have been talking about in chat has been all about like trusting us, or like wanting to trust us, wanting to trust the plans, wanting to trust the decisions that are being made, and a lot of and having that respect, and a lot of what the Lunasian Lounge is, and I mentioned in chat, but also just like we're gonna show up no matter what, even if we haven't had the roadmap ready to present. We just want to be here. We want to be with the community. We want you to be able to talk and to vent and to share whatever you're thinking, to us, to me and Shade, Jaster, Jace, the internal team, that we bring to our developers, to our C level, to all of the staff here, so that we hear you, and we're working on these solves. And they are pretty exciting, and I wish and one day in the near future we can share what the actual plans are, and I think everyone's gonna be pretty jazzed. And we've alluded to it, and it's not like anything that we've ever done for many years. So we're gonna have to work and get a lot of feedback from you guys here. We want to make sure that we hear everyone's voices, and we're building alongside you guys. But some of the options that we have presented should be pretty hype. More so than just a few of these kind of stop gaps and plugging the leakages. We have some.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a question I'd like to ask to the people kind of who come live to these lounges, like, would you rather us be like consistently frequent with these lounges, so we're having this opportunity to speak to you, or would you rather wait until key releases where we present to you with all the information about what's happening? Because we want to get that balance right. We do appreciate you taking the time. We appreciate being here, but like, would you rather us have these conversations with you where it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there is actually that like real discussions? You start to understand what's going on. We can't do it obviously too consistently because it'll take away people's time to go and work and create the products. But in other words, would you rather it be frequent, like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, or would you rather just round key releases? Weekly, daily. We can't do daily.
We
But
could do daily
otherwise,
stand-ups with
actually,
everyone. We could do like a 15-minute. I'll give everyone my Jira tickets, and we can triage bugs together. That's really developing with your community.
that would be very unfun. I promise that. I hate your tickets.
Hey, if I have to deal with it, everyone has to deal with it. You know.
Every hour. Timely, not every day. Okay. Yeah, we're trying and get into like a regular cadence, and a lot of people saying
Yeah.
weekly and bi-weekly.
It
yeah,
sounds like it's unanimous that they want us to do it more often, even if we don't have much to talk about.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good takeaway, and that's like, if we can do that, fantastic. We'll discuss as a team to get that scope. But I just want the community to be aware as well. Like, we appreciate you being here, but that means we're not going to have the answers to everything every single Lunatic Lounge. This is going to be more of an open dialogue. We'll tell you about the updates of what we've been building and the direction, but we also won't have the answers. So like, I'm more than happy to push this from a community standpoint. But I would just like that buy-in from the community as well, to be like, it can't just be like necessarily a negative sentiment every single time. If it's repeating the same stuff, we understand that, we listen. All this call and the notes from this call get passed on to the team as well, so there's full visibility on what the community feels. So we do want to make sure you're heard. So thank you. Sweet. We've got a couple more minutes for this lounge, so we'd put up some of the questions. We do have a hard cut, sadly. Awesome. Let's go through and see what we haven't answered already. Gila. What's the plans for with pushing the AXIE IP more? I feel like we have focused so internally on the crypto side of AXIE, where we have this IP that captured many of us visually. There is so much more potential with AXIE IP, the lore. I'd love the external development of the AXIE universe across social platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Make people curious about Lunacia before monetary benefits. Yeah, no, great question. Let me have a think how we want to answer this one. You know, like I'm a big fan of experiments. That's one of the things I think you probably got from me. I'm not scared of trying to experiment with things, what we're doing. We have explored a few different avenues for like IP expansion when it comes to more traditional touch points. Personally, this is me personally speaking, not Sky Mavis or Axie. If we start pushing heavily on the IP expansion, we want an experience that is captivating to that person we attract, right? So if we went down like the heavy TikTok route, right, and we went heavily into animations, which other brands have done successfully, and like it's replicable, is that the word? Repeatable. Do we have the experience right now to take that attention and turn it into action? For me, I don't think we're there just yet. I think we need a little bit more time, but we are looking into that, especially the lore side. Do you want to talk about the lore a little bit? Because there's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's the lore is a good is a good point, right? Like, that's a huge part of the Axie IP, and we want to push a lot more of the lore. And I know we've been saying that for like a year, right? And we've tried, and in a few different ways that like the comic and some videos and things like that. And the past few big features, like Nightmare and evolutions and stuff like that. Those those Axie core features did come along with some lore, and those lore are canon, and those lore, that lore is all part of the Axie and Lunacian universe. However, it didn't feel consequential, right? It didn't feel cool or important or anything like that, right? And then so this year, we're gonna spend a lot more time putting out some lore pieces that are just detached from features. We don't have to wait for cool features to release lore, right? And I think in the past we felt like we did, and which meant that lore kind of just came out very slowly, right? But I think just putting out a frame or a page of a comic out on social media, just just for fun, or maybe aligned with some other feature or leading up to some other release, right? And yeah, so expanding the IP through the lore over social media is actually a topic that we have been talking about past few weeks, very recently, actually. And even Jace himself is has asked a lot about the lore, and Jace himself has asked for us to just allow him to release lore and things like that. And I think this year we'll do a lot of that, right? I think also this year we'll experiment with different mediums, um, other than just assets within XE Core, right, and within our ecosystem. We we for as an example, we just created a new Axie Infinity shirt internally, right? It's a cool, beautiful new like Kotaro shirt or whatever, that we made internally, and I think experimenting with that, as a really cool exclusive reward on like the Codex or the Bounty Board or something, could be really exciting. And uh, yeah, so I think tons of plans around the lore, right? Like I for years I have talked about lore, and I've been a proponent of Axie lore and expanding it, right? And for years we've sort of just teetered on the edge of fully committing to it, or like not doing it at all, right? And I think this is finally the year where we're like, okay, look, we're just gonna like open the floodgates, right? In a number of different ways regarding the lore. So yeah, some cool stuff coming with that. But yeah.
Awesome. Then we've got time for one more question. Yeah, Cruz, you meant, or you typed a response to Baranar, but I think it's probably important. So we're going to go over this one. So Baranar, you've said about, I don't understand the goal with these meetings because very little seems to be accomplished and you're only getting a very small sliver of the total community. But yeah, essentially, these aren't to give you the full answers delivery of every bit of information that we're working on. It's more to provide a consistent touch point with, I classify it as the super fans that have time, right? We're all aware, like, people have day jobs, people have commitments. So if you're being here, it means like you actually care about AXIE and you want to know what's going on. This format, which we're trying to get, like said, to a regular cadence, even if we don't have all of the information and the answers, but it gives you the chance to directly voice how you're feeling, what you're excited about, what you don't like, maybe some feedback on how we can improve something, and we can capture all this. So we've got obviously 4 people in the call right now, but there's at least another 4 people in the chat. So we collate all this information. And what we'll be doing is, after this, we'll be pushing out the full version on YouTube. So the people that can't come live, they can listen to the full thing. We'll be creating highlights and like shorts from this long form piece of content. So if people don't have time to watch an hour, they can just watch the highlights, and we'll also provide a text summary. So this is part of an initiative to give you more visibility and touch points to the people that are helping make the decisions, because you are important, and you will be included in that process. So that's why some things we have to do, but other things we would like to brainstorm with you and offer kind of your more input. And this is kind of what we did with the Tears Legacy playtest 1, if you remember, with like the weapons and stuff, what we want to name them. And that's kind of the process we want to get to once we're ready to stop implementing together. So hopefully that makes sense to why we're trying to do this, and hopefully it's beneficial. If it's not beneficial, let us know and we can change the format and do something else, because then we're not like using people's time, essentially. Awesome. Is there anything else from any of the speakers you wanna talk about before we wrap it up, and then focus on the next one?
I'm just having a lot of fun chatting in the chat right now. I should spend more time on Discord. But yeah, next lounge, ideally the goal, the target is we will have a really cool roadmap by the next lounge. So if you're here, if you're 121 listening to this lounge, please check in on the next one. We will hopefully have some real cool plans to share. If not that one, we'll let you know. We'll let you know in advance before you can like tune in, because yeah, we don't want to overpromise. That's the big thing. We've overpromised a lot in our time here in my life as a human being. So we want to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But before we share things, it is very Web3 of me to say, hey, we trust us. We're working on it, but trust us, we're working on it. As far as like, yeah, the plans for games and things going on, the big thing is that Atia's Legacy has been mentioned a lot in chat. The full game is going to take a while. Big games take a while, and they're expensive, and there's a lot of things going on. The one big exciting part of Atia's Legacy versus any other MMO or any other game that exists in the market is that it is not building a game from scratch. It is building a game that wraps up an already large and mature and exciting ecosystem within AXIE. So there's a lot of things that we can do within the AXIE ecosystem that set the stage for the game that'll have very big impacts for the economy, for you, what you're doing, how you're playing every day, well before the full game comes out. So we're going to be showing leaks. We're going to be still building alongside y'all, letting you know what we're working on from like a game second by second dev level. But there's a lot more to Atia's Legacy and a lot more to AXIE than just the core Unity game that you're playing on your phone. I wish I could share more. I wish we had more videos and more plans to share, but we will very, very, very shortly. Yeah, we're definitely not pulling the plug. As much as it is hard and difficult and kind of stressful to work on Axie, we're pretty committed. We're pretty all in across the whole company, the whole dev team. We're not going anywhere. Even if it would be easier and to work on other things, for better or worse, we're in love with this thing, and we're gonna try to make it sing, you know.
Yeah, we're not pulling the plug on Axie, but Axie definitely has some tumors that we might that we're definitely cutting off and pulling the plug on. So, but Axie
Oh, yeah,
Infinity,
right.
no, we're trying to make it healthier.
I like the terminology. I was going to go for evolving,
Yellow.
but
Ooh.
like Pokemon, things have to change to get better, get more powerful. So
Morphing.
more of the thing. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Metamorphing.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. We've got follow-ups to go on to after this, but no, thank you everybody for today. Like you said, these conversations necessarily aren't always easy, but they're not meant to be. That is not the point of the Lunasian Lounge. So thank you everybody. We've got a lot of takeaways for the team. Like I said, our promissory notes is next lounge we will be getting that roadmap. If not, it'll be the next one, but we're going to try and get this on the next deliverable, and it's already being worked on, by the way. This is not a new thing that's come from. We are working on it. Outside of those kind of like big swings, music.
Un poquitito y están despidiéndose básicamente. Vamos a hacer un poquito de resumen de todo lo que hablaron. Hay supuestamente grandes cambios de los cuales nos pueden hablar mucho y que se vienen en un futuro. No hay más LP de Origin, no hay planes para traerlo de vuelta y no sabemos absolutamente qué es lo que va a pasar con Origin. Para que lo tengan claro, igual voy a hacer otro video resumen. Dijeron que se viene un cambio de estilo, de que el AXIE ahora va a tener como un AXIE Score diferente para hacer la transformación. Y se supone que se vienen grandes cambios en lo que es la economía, pero hasta ahora no sabemos cuáles van a ser esos grandes cambios. Personalmente creo que estuvo más o menos flojo el launch. Creo que deberían haber ya empezado a comunicar los títulos de lo que son los grandes cambios. Porque llegar o esperar la noticia del SLP por último. Si ya sabéis que no tenéis la noticia todavía, espera el documento más armado. Y de ahí sacáis el SLP. Entre sacarlo ahora, lo sacáis un mes, lo sacáis hace 6 meses, no hay mucha diferencia. Si la hiperinflación sí son classic. Y bueno, eso ahora lo terminaron sacando de Origins, no hay mucha respuesta, hay harta gente que sí le gusta el juego de Origins y ahora también como que se siente que está medio un poquito abandonado. Yo personalmente igual tengo esa sensación, independiente que le creo al equipo, y eso está como medio negativo, así que esperemos que tengan más noticias